You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello. Yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you for choosing to spend the next half hour, however long this will end up being, with me. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into this one. I got a good few things to say, so I'm not going to waste your time, So let's just get into it. Yeah, so Canada, right? Miracle run, didn't end up reaching the final. I'm a little bit down in the dumps, but it's okay. I'm still proud of the boys, and it took the best team in the tournament to stop us, and they are the only team that beat us. So, a feather in the cap a little bit, at least, I would say. It was always going to be an uphill battle regardless, and we kind of knew that going into this one. But the boys still looked like they could hang. They looked like they could hang with the very best. Even at 2-0 down and going into that 85th, 90th minute stretch kind of thing, the boys were still playing until the final whistle was blown, still trying to get those chances, just trying to get something from the game. And I know that's, you may listen to that and go, oh, well, shouldn't they? Yes, ideally they should, but that's not always the case. A lot of these times when a team is down 2-0 and the game's probably over with 5 minutes left, a lot of the time the teams just go, well, we're not getting anything from this, and they kind of just shut off. But no, these guys, they played until the final whistle, and I don't know, it just fills you with a little bit of pride because, that's not always the case, and it's nice to see that they were pushing and playing for the badge. Even though we did lose, our tournament isn't over, though. We play Uruguay in the third place game on July 13th, I believe. Yes, July 13th, because the final is the 14th. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, we're going to move into positives, negatives, which I don't have a ton of negatives for this one. I know I probably could, but nah, man, we're going to be positive today. Then I do have a few talking points I wanted to cover just to change it up a little bit. I don't typically do that. I kind of just have the positive, negatives, player breakdowns, and sprinkle my opinions in throughout. But no, I have a good few things that didn't really fit into positives or negatives, but didn't really fit into a player breakdown either. So changing up the format a little bit. Episode 16, we're changing it up, guys. And speaking of changing it up, we're going to keep it the same real quick. So positives, we're going to move into those. I mean, look at what we accomplished. Viewing on TSN peaked at almost 7 million, which is kind of absurd, and it shows that there is an appetite to support this team. We hung with some of the very, very best, and it took the absolute best to beat us in this tournament. That miracle run really did capture a nation. How many casual, football fans did you know, or even people that are just sports fans or not even, that didn't even know what the Copa America was a month ago when we started? I would venture guess to say a good few people that didn't know or didn't follow this ended up kind of getting swept up in this run for Canada. And it just shows, like I said, there's an appetite there that we do want to support this team. And these broadcasters bluntly need to kind of get it together and really push this and help grow the game. Don't just cover Canadian football when our men are doing good. Like when we made the World Cup. Yeah, they covered that, as they should. They covered our qualifying run. Great, as they should. They covered our Copa run, as they should. Okay, what else do they cover? Exactly. We need them to really start pushing this, because if we can create this culture and show that there is this appetite for this team, then who's to say that we don't start getting more serious about this sport? We're already kind of on the up as it is, so I'd rather keep climbing up than have this be our peak and it's just downhill from here. No, like, I think that we need to really try to elevate this, and these broadcasters, I think, play a very pivotal role in that. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I think the broadcasters play a massive, massive part in this because their coverage is pretty good, in my opinion. And yeah, just cover it, cover all of it. It shouldn't, I don't know, it feels like we don't really fully support them until it's like, okay, and now we should support them when we're actually at that turn. No, we should be supporting them all throughout. That's just my opinion. Another positive is, like I said, showed we could hang with the very best. Before the tournament started, we got beat bad by Netherlands, and it really felt like it was potentially a wake-up call for Jesse Marsch and the boys of, oh shoot, like this may not be the best summer. We could be getting an early off season, but rebounded 0-0 with France. Pretty good, second in the world at the time, still technically are. I assume that's probably going to drop post Euros, but at that time, second in the world. And then we entered the Copa on a little bit of a high, I would say. And yes, we did get beaten by Argentina in that first game, but once again, didn't look out of it and looked good, in my opinion. They were the best team in the world, defending champs, tournament favorites, and world champs. And it was our first ever game in the Copa America. So yeah, obviously our backs were against the wall a little bit, but a lot of people were touting us to just get destroyed, and that's not what happened. I think it was a very respectable result, if you ask me. Then you go on to Peru, where you beat them. Thank you, Jonathan David, for that goal. And then, once again, Chile, a 0-0, keeping a clean sheet against a team that has recently won this tournament and usually is in the Final Four. So, once again, not a small feat. Then, of course, beating Venezuela on penalties. And, yeah, just hanging with the best in CONMEBOL, and that is something to be said. Some of these nations are die-hard footballing nations, so to essentially go into their house. I know we were playing in the States, but these stadiums were taken over by our opposition every time. So to go into their house essentially and to look very good and very hard to beat, considering that the expectation on us was to really be the whipping boys and out in the first 3 games, it's massive in my opinion. And once again, need to capitalize on this moment. The program needs to capitalize on this. Everyone needs to capitalize on this. And then my last positive is that's the best we've looked since World Cup qualifiers. Nothing much to say apart from that. But yeah, since those games in 2021, 2022, this is the best we've looked. We were hard to beat, created chances. And yeah, of course, there was flaws in our game over on the midfield, as I mentioned multiple times on this podcast. Not finishing our chances, but hopefully that can change and improve. I do think we'll be all right. Keep the faith. Looking at our negatives, I do have a couple. Our tournament doesn't reach the final, so by default, that's a negative considering we're in the semifinal. But still, ask any fan before the start of the tournament if they take a semifinal matchup, and even if it means they lose, I think 99% of people would say yes. We weren't expecting to be there, and even the most optimistic supporter probably didn't see this coming. And what a run it honestly was. This was supposed to be a quote-unquote negative. It just turned into essentially another positive. That's my bad. I guess I'm in a good mood and just really proud of these guys. So, whoops. And then my other negative is, despite mentioning the fact that we created a lot of chances in this tournament, we created very little against Argentina. Schaffelberg broke through twice on goal and failed to get anything from that. David had a chance from nothing, in all fairness, and it wasn't converted. Then Tani Oluwaseyi had 2 chances toward the very end of the game, but couldn't convert either one. And then outside of that, not many chances on the night, and us not converting those chances is also another problem, of which I have mentioned multiple times. Either we're creating these chances and people aren't converting, or we're just not getting chances, full stop. So those are my two negatives. And then moving into a couple of talking points. Ooh, he's fancy. So after the game, Stefan Eustachio called out. Didn't call out. He called on for our nation to kind of really push the CPL and for the broadcasters to really push CPL and how it needs development and not to let this moment pass, capitalize on it, get behind a CPL team, MLS, support. That's what we can do. We have to focus on developing those teams, those players, and help them work up to being real contenders and pushing for big moves and getting it into the national setup, obviously. We have these leagues and teams for a reason. The development has been good to this point. I mean, the CPL is only 5 years old, and literally just last night, Forge FC beat Toronto FC. Add that to them beating Montreal a month or two ago. That's pretty good in my opinion. Montreal and TFC are obviously on a totally different scale than Forge. All due respect to Forge, love Forge, but just cost-wise, money-wise, just totally different stratospheres. I mean, Bernadeschi and Insigne are on insane amounts of money that to see Forge, who have only been like a team in a real league for 5 or 6 seasons, yeah, that's impressive, and it's definitely positive. And yeah, so Eustachio was basically just kind of calling on us, on Canada in general, to really get behind CPL and really support this because it's what's needed. And I agree with him. Looking at another thing that would have been a negative if I was like a referee analysis podcast, because the refereeing was woeful. Right? Like, we all agree on that. It's hard to beat a class team, especially when they have 12 men. With that being said, of course, Argentina did show their class and took their chances. It's how you play as a winner. But any 50-50 went their way. He bought every dive Argentina was doing. It was terrible, but that's Copa, and you do have to expect it. Now, it's not right, but sadly, that's just kind of how it is, and we knew this was going to happen at some point, especially with Argentina. They're kind of known for their on-field antics. I mean, look at DePaul. Speaking of DePaul, wow, was that one of the most embarrassing performances I've ever seen? I mean, it works for him. He's obviously a World Cup winner and could be on his way to a Copa America, and I believe he was on the squad last time they won the Copa America. But yeah, just embarrassing. Like, I'm not gonna get started because that's the type of player he is. That's what he does. He's supposed to really get under your skin when you're the opposition. So it does work, obviously. I just think it's just such a terrible way to play the game. I know it's how it is, but yeah, it's just terrible, I think. Speaking of antics, Jesse Marsch was at it on the touchline for a little bit of the game, and to be honest, I really loved it. Now, it shouldn't be every game, and there is definitely a time and a place to kind of be outspoken against the referees, and I think that was the time. I mean, clear as day, we were getting not fairly treated, I would say, and Jesse Marsch was calling them out on that. He did receive a yellow card. I am kind of surprised he wasn't sent off, but yeah, like I said, not every game should you be doing that, but when it's as clear as that, I honestly don't mind it, and I kind of love it because it shows, one, to the fans that he cares about this, and that's how you create a bond with your fans, is to show that you care. That's how Herdman created a bond when he was with the Canadian women's and then moved over to the men's. That's how you create your bonds, and it also shows, I would say, that he cares for the players and wants to make sure that they're not getting the short end of the stick, because as a manager, your job is to care for these players, is to respect these players, and it just shows he has their back. And as a manager, I think that's just so important. So, good job, Jesse Marsch. And then, yeah, just one final thing. I tweeted yesterday on my Twitter, or X, whatever you would like to call it, at @off_Sam Little. Official Sam Little was not taken. You just can't have more than 15 characters in your Twitter handle, which I found that out. So @off_Sam Little is the Twitter. Anyways, so if you want to follow that. But Going into our third place game, I do want to see Jesse Marsh switch it up. I want to see guys that haven't featured or have had limited minutes in the Copa because, I mean, there's some guys that haven't touched the grass or have touched it very, very sparingly. And yes, getting third place is amazing. But, I mean, one of the things that always sat not well with me was at the World Cup when we were eliminated after 2 games but still had to play our third game. And the only guys that didn't make an appearance in the World Cup to that point that got on the field were Wotherspoon and Kay, and definitely deserved it 100%. But I think there should have been more guys that got on that didn't play because this is a massive moment in these guys' careers. And I think it's just a little bit of a slap in the face to bring them and then they don't even play or barely play. So, yeah, I would like to see them kind of put these guys in. And it's not like these guys are bad anyways. Like, it's not like our 11 that we put out are only 11 good players. Like, we do have quality players. Like, look at Kamal Miller, Theo Bair, Hybert, St. Clair, Waterman, Piet, Chouanier. These guys have barely or not at all gotten minutes. And that's just to name a few. Obviously, there are other guys that haven't. But they deserve to get on the pitch. If we get thrashed in the third place game, it doesn't put a damper on this tournament to me, in my opinion. And obviously, like I said, want us to win the third place game because it is a great feather in the cap. But I think that these guys are more than capable of going out there and putting on a great performance as well. So why not give them a shot? Like, that's my opinion. That's how I see it. That's not me saying, screw third place. These players aren't good enough. No, like, these guys deserve a chance too. I mean, I won't be heartbroken if you see a kind of unchanged lineup because the guys that have played also deserve to play. But I guess it's more so the compassionate side of me coming out saying, yeah, these guys should be playing too. So that's all I'm saying. I'll be watching either way. But yeah, just get these guys in. I didn't like when we didn't do it at the World Cup. So get them in. It's a massive moment for them, their career, their family, the sacrifices they've made. So they deserve to be a part. They already are a part of that story, but to be a part of that story. So what do we say? We break down some players? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So looking at the players, you already know how it goes. Defense, mid, attack. Let's get it, baby. Starting out with, in my opinion, our player of the tournament, Max Crepeau. Probably his least busy day at the tournament, despite conceding 2. First goal, there isn't really a whole ton he can do. It's a one-on-one opportunity with Julian Alvarez, who you'd probably bet your house on scoring from there. So, I mean, it would have taken a spectacular stop to have kept that out. Not saying Crepeau isn't capable, but yeah, it would have taken a little bit to kind of keep that one out. And then the second goal, I actually think Crepeau has Enzo Fernandez's shot covered up until Messi quickly tips it in. Once Messi tips it in, there's not really a chance Crepeau stops it. It's too close. It's changing trajectory and flight. So would have been difficult. But other than that, like, I don't really have much to say on Crepeau's performance because I don't really think Argentina did a whole ton to warrant him doing a whole ton, if you're catching my drift. But then looking at our defense, starting with our captain, Alphonso Davies, of course, I thought it was a pretty solid performance from him. I am hoping he's not injured. I did see some reports saying that the x-rays that he got showed that there was nothing wrong and that he's okay. So hopefully those are true and correct. And yeah, I thought he was solid, kept Messi pretty quiet, forced him to move centrally anytime he wanted any joy, kept Di Maria pretty quiet as well. He got forward a few times, but not a whole ton, not as much as he would have wanted. And I would say that's definitely a negative with how we play. Davies feels a little bit shackled in a creative sense, which doesn't help us as he's probably our most creative player and so gifted in that final third. He's been doing great in this role, of course, but definitely something that I guess is kind of sacrificed is him kind of feeling a little bit shackled in that final third. Yeah, and then looking over to the right flank, his partner in that sense, Alistair Johnston. What a player, huh? Totally shut down McAllister, nullified any overlap by Tagliafico. And yeah, just a top class performance. His link up play with Larea was nice as well. The two of them have played together so much now that they're kind of used to it, you know. And then seeing him wear that captain's armband was definitely a well-deserved moment, I thought. Obviously, under the circumstances, not the best, but he definitely deserved that moment as like an isolated moment, if you know what I mean. Like he's done enough to warrant being called captain. And I think it was nice to see him kind of get that moment, although it was, like I said, under not the best circumstances. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about Johnston. I just thought it was another solid Alistair Johnston performance, which, yeah, you can always bet on, that he's gonna have a great performance. That's side note. That's not me endorsing betting. I'm just saying, as a phrase, you can bet on that. Like Troy Bolton says, bet on it. You can bet on it, but don't actually bet on it. We're having fun here on the Maple Footy Podcast. But yeah, looking at our center backs, I thought they were decent, but didn't hit the heights that you'd want from them. Bombito, of course, I am a fan of him, but he did totally shut off on that first goal. Kind of lets Alvarez go. He can't really challenge him because if he does, he's going to give up a penalty and probably see himself sent off. Outside of that, I thought he was decent, though. Definitely not those great performances we saw from him earlier in the tournament, but it wasn't like it was like, man, he's terrible. That's my opinion. Still a bright future and very clearly an important part of Canada's team going forward, as Marsh seems to be quite the fan, and I obviously cannot blame him. And it was definitely a great tournament from him and a coming out party for sure. Big move on the horizon, fingers crossed. And yeah, looking at his partner, Cornelius, once again, not his best performance, but not terrible. Keeps Messi onside that second goal. He was just a bit slow getting out, but in all fairness, he was literally at the goalpost after he had marked DePaul on the run. But yeah, once again, solid, and his distribution out from the back needs to be taken advantage of a bit more, I think. The same goes for Bombito in that sense. But yeah, they're what you want from your center backs. Big, commanding presence, confident and assured, solid distribution. Two solid center backs. Both of them enjoyed, like I said, their coming out parties here. And both hopefully getting that move. And Cornelius, in my opinion, has genuinely been one of the best center backs at this tournament. Argue with me all you want, You're not going to change my mind. Moving into our midfield, starting with TFC's Richie Larea. I just think he really struggled to get involved in this game. He linked up well with Alistair Johnston, but outside of that, he was a bit of a non-factor. It just really wasn't his day. It's not like he was terrible and actively costing us, but yeah, he just wasn't super involved. I mean, you could tell he wanted it. There's always that Larea charm, you could say, of you could see how much it means to him, how badly he wants to win this. But yeah, it just wasn't his day in my opinion. And yeah, I don't have much to say about it on that. And then on the left wing, Schaffelberg, I think, found a little bit more joy, but definitely not up there with his performance against Venezuela. He was set free behind the Argentine defense twice, and both of them ended up amounting to nothing, which of course is always frustrating. But yeah, just I guess wasn't in the cards, wasn't meant to be, I don't know. But yeah, our wide players just weren't finding that joy that you would want them to. Looking into the center of the park now with Stefan Eustachio, I thought it was a solid effort. He put in some nice defensive moments and touches, would touch the ball off a guy's foot. He tried to control the tempo of the game to slow it down when the Argentines were really trying to mount their momentum. But it was always going to be hard. Look at the players Argentina have. When we could get hold of possession, he was one of the main contributors of that. And any chance we did get, up until he was subbed off, he did play a part in a beautiful ball, as I was just talking about Jacob Schaffelberg's chances. A beautiful ball to Jacob Schaffelberg, who takes a great touch past the Argentine defender. And yeah, it just kind of shows what Eustachio can kind of do. Just one pass can sometimes unlock a defense for him. And definitely is quality in that center of the park. But definitely not his greatest performance for our team, but I do think it was solid. Like I said, it was always going to be challenging and the way that the game was going. As Eustáquio was more of a possession kind of player, being out of possession for such long stretches, you're probably not going to see the best of Stefan Eustáquio. But yeah, I do think it was a solid performance for sure. But this kind of just all goes back to me wanting that extra guy in the midfield so we're not getting overrun like the Oso or Piet, Chouanier, whoever you want to put in there, I think would really help. And I'm not going to harp on it, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And then looking at his partner, of course, Ishmael Kone, came in after being dropped the last couple of games, and he was really great. I thought. I would say our man of the match for sure. He helped evade the Argentine press, broke up their play, and really made it hard for their midfield to contain him and get past him. A big performance was needed from him to repay Marsh's confidence and decision to put him in over, let's say, a Jonathan Osorio who started the last couple of games. And yeah, he also got his moment in the match where he kind of lightly kicks the ball against DePaul's back, which was incredibly funny. And yeah, just kind of moment of the match for sure. For me, at least, I thought it was very funny. But yeah, definitely a great performance for him. Bright future, just signed with Marseille. So keep an eye on him, please. He's hopefully going to continue this form into this upcoming season and can continue this with Canada anytime he gets called up. So yeah, knock on wood. I don't know if you can hear that, but I was knocking on wood. Knock on wood that this form continues and he only gets better from here. And looking at our attack, I honestly don't have much points here. Both David and Larin really did struggle to do much of anything. David wasn't able to get involved and drop a little deeper to create chances for his teammates. And he himself really only had one chance right at the end of that first half where he came up and just kind of out of nowhere, the ball's bouncing around a bit and he takes a shot. But really, that was about it for David. Like I said, didn't really have those chances to even say, oh, David should have scored X, Y, and Z chance. You can't really even say that because he didn't have those chances. And then Larin, on the other hand, I don't really even think he had any chances. It was a frustrating night for him for sure. He looked more involved when Oluwaseyi came in, but even then, it was more so Tani doing his thing as opposed to Larin really doing much. Definitely a frustrating night for both of our strikers, for sure. Can't say it's fully their fault when you don't get the service, so you're kind of always going to struggle in that sense. Looking at our subs, I actually thought they were really good when they came in. Liam Miller for Jacob Schaffelberg in the 55th has been a topic of discussion. People don't think Liam Miller was great when he came in, and I actually thought he was looking really good on that left flank. I thought Schaffelberg's race had been run and we needed a change. And Liam Miller kind of brought in a little bit of energy, a little bit of life. He looked super lively on the ball, looked up for it, took on his man, and was a constant outlet and threat. I will say he did struggle to make an impact when he was moved over to the right following the Davies injury. But that's not his natural position. So it was always a gamble. But yeah, I don't really understand the Liam Miller kind of discourse going on, but I don't know. Everyone has their own opinion, right? So everyone's got an opinion. But yeah, mine's of course correct on this one. I'm kidding. You can think of whatever you want, but I will choose to believe that I did think Liam Miller for that, I think 10 minutes he got on at the left flank. He was looking good and he was looking really dangerous. Once we moved him over to the right, he wasn't doing what he wanted to do. And then, yeah, at the same time, we brought on Ali Ahmed for Richie Larea, and he looked good. I thought he looked really good on the right, but it was really when he looked great was when he was on the left after Davies went out hurt. We put Ali Ahmed there. Some great overlapping runs, looks sound defensively, and honestly, I wouldn't be mad if he started the third place game if Davies can't. So, yeah, I don't have a whole ton to say. He kind of took me by surprise, and I thought he was really good, really positive. I just like seeing these young guys get a shot in such a massive moment, and to be called upon there shows that Jesse Marsch has faith in these guys, so that's what you want to see. And then in the 64th minute, it wasn't the 64th minute, it was Tanny time. As Sorry, that was terrible. That was bad. He replaced Jonathan David, though. And I would say Oluwase, he was honestly probably our best striker on the night. He still waits for that first international goal, but it was very close on two separate occasions within very quick succession of each other. First shot, I don't think he struck as cleanly as he would have liked. He was kind of free. Ball kind of came to him, and he struck it. It was a powerful strike, and maybe if he kind of gets into one of the corners, he's troubling Martinez a bit more, but it was really kind of central and not right at Martinez. He did have to work a little bit, but very savable for Martinez. Obviously, split-second decision to shoot that ball, so, easy for me to go, well, he should have put it in the corner. Obviously, you have a split-second choice, but yeah, definitely didn't strike it as cleanly as he would have wanted is the point I'm getting at. And then he had a very good header, which he should score that, and I think, judging by his reaction when he kind of fell to his knees and kind of hit the ground in frustration, I think he also thought he should have scored that. But yeah, once again, just kind of looking at a real player, and that first goal is coming for sure. I do hope very soon, and I think it's great to see once again I don't believe he's ever been called up for Canada before Marsh came in, and now he's looking like the third guy behind David and Larin. So definitely a good spot to be in. He's kind of overtaken that Ugbo role, who, yeah, we won't speak on that. We don't know what happened between Ugbo and Marsh, but Ugbo's not this Copa America, and that's all we know. But he kind of looks like he's taken over that place as first striker off the bench kind of thing, kind of taking the spot that I figured would have been Bears. But, I mean, hey, if he's going to keep putting in these performances, then who is anyone to say that he shouldn't be playing? I think he's looked very good anytime he's kind of gotten an opportunity, just waiting for that first goal. And the last set of changes were Oso and Chouanier. I thought Oso looked good. He helped us hold on to possession, was taking the sting at Argentina's game. He linked up really well with Kone and Chouanier. And three midfielders on the pitch at once, and we don't look that overrun in the midfield. Who's been saying this? Any guesses? But yeah, no, I thought he looked really good when he came in. Was definitely up for the moment, as he usually is in these big games. It was a bright 20 minutes for the TFC captain, and yeah, just very, very good. Chouanier was also really good. Rumor has it he's putting a transfer request with Montreal, so I'm not sure if he wants to stay in the MLS or if this is all even true. But if he does want to stay in the MLS, if I'm TFC, I'm all over this one because him and Oso looked really good together. They were playing off each other really well. And Chouanier had, once again, that good 20 minutes. He was eager to get on the ball, pressure the Argentina team, and was knocking on the door, looking really dangerous. I was really impressed with him. And kind of like how I said with some of the younger guys that Marsha brought in, like Chouanier hasn't played a whole ton this tournament. And for him to be called upon at that moment, I mean, it just shows faith from the coach, and that's what you want to see when these guys are sitting on the bench. Like, yeah, you have them on the bench, use them, and that's what you want to see. So, credit to Marsh for making those changes. I thought it did help us. Sadly, it didn't change the result, which does sting. It does still sting, guys. But it didn't change the result. But I do think that we looked positive when these changes were made, which isn't always the case. So, I'm glad the changes were made. They looked good, I thought, looked positive, and it's what you want to be seeing. So, yeah. And then next up is, of course, Uruguay in that third place match. Obviously, Uruguay is going to be favored here, but, we're kind of used to that at this point. There'll be a challenge, of course, and you'd love to see us pull this one off and finish strong. Obviously, I have faith that it will happen. And bronze at the Copa definitely is a nice way to end this first window with Marsh. If we don't get it, I don't think it ruins our tournament. I honestly don't. Even if we say get thrashed, I really don't think it ruins our tournament. We looked great all tournament and proved so many people wrong, regardless of the results on Saturdays. The boys have got to be proud of what they did. Like I said, it'll be hard. Uruguay's got some class players. They're one of the favorites going into the tournament. So they'll be favored against us, but like I said, we're used to it at this point. So I'm excited for the game. I'm a little bit upset that it's going to be coming to an end. I've really enjoyed this Canadian window. I've absolutely loved covering it. It's been, honestly, my favorite stuff I've done with this podcast so far. Getting to cover these guys has been, I've loved it. I've really loved it. I think it's my best work, and I hope that you've enjoyed it too. So with this all being said, of course, that does bring to a close our recap. Thank you for listening. If you've listened this far, keep listening. I have more episodes planned coming out. Obviously, the Euro breakdowns will continue until that tournament is over. England, Spain in the final. Still got to do those semifinal recaps, which will be coming to you very soon. I can promise you that. And yeah, Copa, obviously, one more episode after this one for the Canadian boys. Sucks, but, is what it is. But remember to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at @OfficialSamLittle to get any updates on the show. Be the first to know. And other than that, thank you so much. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at @OfficialSamLittle on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.